election for the chair and the vice chair. And then adjust, we can do it then.
6666. All right.
Second.
Listen, I was just not seconding because I thought Bert would, so if you don't want to do it, I don't want you to have to do it.
Oh, I get to make a choice.
Yes,
It's either how awkward is it going to be, so.
because Steve will win, I'll make sure that he has, between you and me, we'll force him to take it, so.
I nominate Steve Morris for chair.
Well, did we get a vote on the chair here?
We had a second, so we can open it up for discussion. I
Okay,
appreciate you
Discuss.
nominating me, but you have been the chairperson for at least 2 years now. And you have done a great job. You articulate clearly, and so I appreciate you nominating me, but it's your job to turn down. And I granted, by nominating me, that's kind of your way, but like, I want to make sure that I do the right thing, even though you nominated me, and give you the opportunity to turn this down from my perspective.
I very much appreciate that. Bert, go ahead.
At this point in time, I think that Mr. Morris is not competent to be chair.
High praise, Bert.
And so therefore, I'm very glad to vote for you. And Steve knows that my humor as well as you do. So you're here now.
I very much appreciate the lack of a second on my nomination, and I appreciate the nomination, but I would like to turn it down. I chose not to run for a 3-year seat. For personal reasons, I chose to run for the 1-year seat, and I asked if Tim would run for the 3. And it is my intention to fulfill this 1 year to the best of my ability, but then I don't know what my future holds, and I don't know if it's on this board, and so I would really like to make sure that somebody else has the opportunity to be board chair. So I'm going to vote no for me as board chair.
Okay, I'll withdraw my second, because I wouldn't want to force you,
Your motion.
force you into what you don't want to do, but I would compromise. If you go for vice chair, that would be sufficient.
Well, you can always nominate her, because that will be our second.
No, Steve could not show up. When he came in late, we'd already have the show on the road. So, we consider the motion withdrawn. Okay, I would move Steve as chair.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Steve, you are in favor?
I abstain.
I would nominate Jenna for vice chair.
Second.
Discussion?
Okay, I will do vice chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye, or abstain, sorry.
I'm
Abstain.
abstaining.
Abstain.
So does that mean we need to switch seats?
Yes.
Oh, I gotta get your new
We'll get new name
class.
tags, but I'm switching seats too.
You gotta
Next,
change
next
it.
meeting, there better not be a fancy chair in that seat over there either.
Yeah, don't touch the coffee. That means trouble.
What did I leave this?
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'll do my best to represent y'all, even though none of us are above the other, when I have the opportunity. And I'll have Jenna to call and ask questions and make sure I'm doing everything right. All right, moving on.
I would like to comment about the vice chair, and my comment there. I don't want anybody in the public to think that you are not capable. You are overly capable. West Point grad, 20 years in the military, retired person who has the time. It was humor between us. We all knew that, I hope. But in respect for Jenna, who's done this for many years, and has worked very well going in the transition between what was and what is. So,
I assumed you were joking, Mr. Spalding. I knew you were. But I appreciate you clarifying that in case someone's watching. All right, moving on. Next up, adjustment to the agenda. Do we have any adjustments?
I do. I'd like to add the update on the Wheeler Gym floor.
All right, so we'll put that under, you want to do that first, or
That's fine.
we'll move that to A?
I would also like to add an update on lead testing.
All right, well, you want to make that B?
Yep, we can do that.
Lead testing. Then we'll shift everything down. You got another?
Yeah, so this is just a removal. I'd like to remove the student rep report, as Stephen is not here this evening.
All right, so do I have roll call vote to approve these
I have
adjustments?
I have a question.
Yes.
What happened to our behavior?
That's
From
the
most-
first, that's April. That's the first one in
I
April.
thought it was supposed to be this month, though.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you make that motion, I'll second it.
All right, motion to adjust the agenda to add update on the gym floor, lead testing, shifting down Newport Times and budget adjustments, and then removing student representative.
Second?
Is it a roll call? Though?
Yep. Yes.
Bert Spalding Senior.
Jenna Darling, yes.
All right. Stephen Morris, yes. Moving on, that moves us to public comment. We have one tonight, Mr. Kessler. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey Kessler. Want to speak on a few things. The four of you that are school board members, you either were at the February 6th or you watched the February 6th Board of Selectmen's meeting. And at that meeting and at the one just last Monday, several of you made comments either at the meeting or later during a talk show of yours, commenting about the town manager being, I guess, lying all the time. You know, lies about this, lies about that, just lies all the time. And at the February 6th meeting, I want you to go back and take a look at the tape of that meeting from NCTV, where 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 45 seconds into it, interim superintendent there said concerning the email she got from the town manager on the 21st of February to being evicted from the bus barn. She said she needs to speak to the board and get back to Hunter. And she commented, "We haven't had our March board meeting to have the discussion." Now, unlike some of the people at the selectmen's meeting, I didn't jump up and start screaming and calling people liars right away. I waited for a break. So at 1 hour, 24 minutes, and about 20 seconds into it, I corrected your interim superintendent, referring to the minutes of your, which one was that? Probably February 23rd, non-public meeting, where the minutes basically said one of the purposes of that meeting was to discuss the bus barn. Now, maybe there's a different standard for whether someone lies or not up here versus down there, but that's for you to decide. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that at the time, it really stuck out to me because I had those minutes and I knew the interim superintendent met with you 2 days after receiving that email, based upon your own minutes. Next thing I want to talk about is bids. There's been a lot of discussion about how the town of Newport does bids, and I guess what we should do is follow the fine example of the school board down here. And I guess the first one we should start to follow is how you bid for your snow removal. So that's something you probably bid every year, and it's something I think we need to look at the town to see how you do it and how we can move forward. And certainly, you know, obviously, like most people, you get the bids, you see the amount, and it's like, oh, we've worked with these customers, and that plays into how you choose your contractor. So look forward to hearing about how you guys do that, just the great procedure you have. Another thing, a couple of the school board members here, in fact, I think 3/4 of them, either at one of the Board of Selectmen's meeting or on their talk show, whatever, commented that myself, town manager, and I don't know who else is on the tape, we're being paid by people to do certain things. And I lost track of how many different people, you know, I'm being paid by. But I want to tell you right now, you guys are correct. Okay? Just so you understand, the town manager, myself, basically the town is in bed with one of the largest developers in the state, a fellow by the name of Chris Sununu. If this Ruger property goes in, basically we will get $10,000. That's $10,000 per each apartment they put in. And this is through a program called, it's through the New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs. It's the Invest NH Municipal Per Unit Grant Program. So you're right, you know, we had an investment in getting these apartments in. And unfortunately, there's sort of time constraints on it. And there's only so much money in the pot, so we may miss out, but we have our application in. If things move forward in a good manner, we may make a few bucks off the deal. So you guys were right, you know, we are on the take with this guy, Chris Sununu. Let's see. And two things. At our board meetings, we've had people come in and complain to us about their tax bills, and they want to know where we're spending the money. And at the time, I didn't realize it, but it hit me now. When they come in again, I'm going to send it to you, because the majority of the tax money we're getting, the tax rate goes here. So I'm going to have them come here and ask you what you're doing with all that extra money you're getting. And there's been some talk about a Reesburg affair, quote unquote, that happened earlier in his career. And I just want to let you know that the Board of Selectmen that hired Hunter Reesburg as our town manager investigated it, talked with at least one person that was there during it, and there's nothing to it. It's, say, like something similar to like the school board screwing up and deflecting it so it's the Board of Selectmen's fault. And finally, last thing, and this is something I picked up from listening to the BBC today, and it's out of India, and I thought it's good. Next time, from now on, when you talk about how bad the Board of Selectmen are and all the evil we're doing, I want you to use this phrase to describe us: dark deeds. I like that phrase, so refer to our dark deeds going forward. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yes.
So if you listen closely, I say, if I find out, I never accused you of that. And when me and Steve do a show, we're not school board members. And if you're upset about Hunter lying, and maybe Hunter shouldn't lie, I think I've proved that he's a liar. And I'm going to keep proving he's a liar.
And I'd also like to address how you accused Ms. Magoon of lying. When we went to that closed-door meeting, she said, I can't talk to you all because all I have is a document that says 10,000, XXX. I need to get more pertinent data. So that does not make her a liar. She said, we can't talk about it because it says 10, XXX, so I don't know what the price is, and I don't want to brief y'all and have a discussion where we don't know what the price is. Now, I know that y'all had mentioned in the select board that that's chump change, just as you implied that we spend all the tax dollars. And I encourage the town, myself personally, my own encouragement, to come here and have a discussion, because maybe we are spending a lot of money, and if the town comes together and says, hey, this is because the Department of Education puts these 9 things on us that we have to do, and if the town comes in here and says we don't want to do that, that gives us and the superintendent the ability to then go back and say, hey, our town doesn't want to pay this. So I appreciate you bringing that forward, but I do want to make that clear that I was watching that, and whenever you said that, I wish I were there, because I would have corrected you then at that meeting that you're referring to where she said that she couldn't discuss it with us, but that is why we did not discuss, because it was 10,000, XXX. So I appreciate it, but I want to make sure that you have the full story on that.
I've also publicly said that mistakes on that whole thing in communication on both sides didn't throw just you guys under the bus. We also made mistakes and the communication wasn't great. So I want to make sure that you understand that too, that I've said that multiple times. It's not just the Board of Selectmen. If there should have been better communication all the way around, I think we've accepted that publicly. Just so you understand that the whole bus thing could have gone better, right? We both know this. It wasn't just the Board of Selectmen.
It wasn't just us. We did try to meet with y'all, because it was said that there was no communication, nobody reached out. And we had reached out and had a scheduled meeting, it fell through, and then that's where I took responsibility, because we should have rescheduled it, and we didn't. Yes, Mr. Smalley.
Jeff, I would like to thank you for all of your years of allowing the First Amendment and people to speak what they feel. And at the last meeting of 6 hours, you allowed the meeting to go on that way. And I'm not being facetious with this. This is a real compliment. You have done a great job in allowing people in this community to express themselves, and you're allowed that here. Probably because people are following in your footsteps. Jeff, thank you very much for all of the years that you've been chair and all of the hours that you sat there and listened to things that you might not really wanted to hear. Thank you.
Nobody else? Public comment? All right, moving on, we will move to approval of minutes public March 9th, 2023. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Second, yep. And for discussion, I have one article. If we go to the very last page, it has very little on it, so I added something to it. And as we read the minutes that Maura does, it is a work of art that I have come to appreciate. I hope she adds that to the end of that. When you look at all of the words and all of the detail of what she's done, it is a work of art.
So do we need to add that in there? Or you just,
Well, I don't think we can, because it didn't happen then, but it happened now, and it'll have to be on the one for tonight.
all right. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain? No. Moving on to the next, we have the non-public February 23rd, 2023 minutes.
I move the non-public minutes of February 23rd.
Second?
Discussion?
Second, yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? And then we have the non-public minutes from March 9th.
So moved?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, next up, we have an update on the gym floor.
Yes. So, as you know, I've been keeping the public as well as you informed of what is going on. So the other day, we went down, it was reported to us, actually, by PJ, that there was a little lump in the floor. And so upon further review, we had someone come out and they cut a hole in the floor and down to the membrane. And there was no water on the membrane, but we needed to do more research. So the very next day, actually today, they came out and they cut a larger part, and then they went through the membrane to find that it was soaked. And then what then they did is they went to other locations around the gym, cut holes into the gym floor, come to find out every area of our gym floor is soaked underneath. So the next step would be having the entire gym floor removed, having the floor, the concrete removed so we can, well, let it dry. I think we're going to let it dry first. And then see if we could see where the leak was coming from. And then there's concrete or something underneath it. Both Tim and Steve came today to look at it. And there's like concrete or something underneath it, so they can go through that barrier to find out where the leak is coming from, fix it, and then put another floor. We did, Rodney took pictures, Diane took some pictures, we sent it to Primex for them to cover the cost of it. Do we have a deductible? Or they haven't said anything yet?
They haven't said anything whether it's covered yet or not, so.
Yeah, so we're just waiting to hear from them. We also have someone coming out to check the concrete tomorrow to give us more information about what our next steps are going to be, but it looks like we're gonna have to rip up the entire floor. So the word indefinitely now becomes in effect, so we cannot use our gym for, I know that there was a dodgeball game that was supposed to be occurring tomorrow evening. That is going to be changed to a later date. They said it would probably take, from the time they start doing all the work, it'll probably be a couple months. So we're looking at trying to get somebody on it as soon as possible, so that way we don't have to wait till the summertime, because when the summertime comes, that's a busy time for them. Most of the companies or the schools have them installing floors during the summer because their gyms floors are in their school buildings and they don't want to disrupt their school day, so most of the work is done during the day. So this, a good thing, I guess, it actually happened at a good time when they're not as busy. So.
Are we sure, sorry. Are we sure Primex is going to cover it?
No, I'm not sure yet. I have to send them the pictures and hear back from them.
At one time, he thought that somebody dumped a 10-gallon bucket on the floor and wanted us to watch. We were going to watch 4 hours, 4 days worth of tape to see if we could find that. But when they came out today, and they were like, no, this is a much bigger thing than 4 gallons of water being dumped on, 5-gallon bucket of water being dumped on the floor. I don't know if Tim or Steve want to add to it, because I had them both come out because they have more knowledge about that type of stuff than I do, so. Okay, let me change that. Tim has more knowledge?
So, I guess the floor was put down, what, 2001, it was replaced.
Yep.
And then 3 years ago it was resurfaced. And I noticed Monday during softball practice that it was like, it's so weird, there's like a little lip there, and I was like, man, this floor didn't like hold up like it should have, because it should have lasted quite a while, right? And then he would let us know about that. And of course I got an email, and Steve trying to blame me, but I got an email from Shannon saying that the gym was closing indefinitely. Then Miller said it was water damage. Then earlier that day, we got apparently some of the baseball boys hit one of the sprinkler heads that took the cage off it. So I put all the dots together and said, so the sprinkler broke and there's a foot of water probably in there, right? That's not the case at all. It was just what she explained. But then we looked at today, yeah, it's definitely water under the whole floor. And so we'll have to take the whole floor out and then see where it's coming from. You know, is there an old floor drain in there that no one knew about? Or it could be multiple things, obviously, and we need to figure out why it's coming in so they don't put another new floor on top of it and have it happen next year, obviously. So.
Rewind time.
I'm raising my hand to speak, but so is she, but I wanted to call on her first. So Donna, go ahead. Call on Donna.
I just wanted to add that one of the things that I did do is I did post it on What's Up Newport. Because of Tim's comment, it caused everybody to go crazy. No, I'm just kidding, Tim. I'm just kidding. I have your back. I understand where you went with that. So I did post on the update on What's Up Newport, and it was really amazing that a lot of people were very supportive and, thank you for the update. And there were even comments on there that people said this has happened before there. And so we don't know if it's something that happened and they just did a little patch job. And so a resident actually gave me the phone number to her father, who I'm gonna reach out to and have a conversation with him, because she said he may have an idea of if where it happened and how it happened and if there was a patch done. So it was really great to get that feedback on What's at Newport today, well, in the last couple of days. So it's been great.
I would just be interested in keeping, obviously, we didn't budget a new gym
Right.
floor in Toll. So when we hear back from Primex, I know we can shift things around, but I know there's not, are you okay? I know there's not
I have worked with Tom, good job.
a ton of shifting. I mean, we can do good things, but a gym floor, I imagine, is not cheap.
So I tried to forward the pictures to Primex because I wasn't in the office today, so I tried to send it by email, but it wouldn't go, so I have to do like a Dropbox kind of thing for them. So I'll do it first thing in the morning and keep you updated on what they say.
Mr. Spalding.
Just thinking forward, just in case the worst-case scenario happens, we can convert it into a pool.
How many people have said that?
Well, that was part of what everybody wanted with the rec
Water
center.
polo.
Water pool.
Anything else? Just
We
keep
really
us
don't know
abreast,
anything
appreciate
until we
it.
get to find out the source.
All right, next we have lead testing.
Yes, so I'm going to be sending home information to families regarding this tomorrow morning. I just want to make sure I give them all the information that we have. So what happens is in July of 2022, House Bill 1421 changed the number of parts per billion for lead testing from 15 in schools and childcare to 5. So last year when we tested our building for lead, we passed. This year, we did not pass in some of our sinks. And so what we're doing, now it's, like I said, now it's 5. Some of our sinks were at 6. So what we've been doing is we had water brought in, because it's mostly in our sinks for cooking. So we brought in water for them to use, because you cannot use them. We have to label them that says, do not use for drinking water or cooking. It's for hand washing only or washing dishes. And we're closing off any water fountains. There was just a couple of water fountains, and they'll say, do not use for drinking. We'll shut those right off. The plan that we're going to have in place is we're looking at putting filters on them, so that way, and then what we have to do is, once we put the filters on, the filters have been ordered, we have to test the water again, send it back, and then once we get the approval, then we're good to go with using our faucets again. But I do have a really hefty letter that is going to be going out. It's like a 2-page letter that really gives detail to families, so that way they can see that it's not one of these things that, oh, for years our kids have been, consuming lead in the schools. It's because the number has dropped from 15 to 5 that it's really making a big impact. A lot of our numbers fell like 6.52, 6.7, those types of things. So it's not that far off from 5, but it's still above what the state has now put into a House bill. And I'm going to give an update on, like at Richards, where they're located, what the number was, and what we're doing at that area on each one. So this way parents know all the details of everything that's going on. The middle school had nothing. There was no lead found in any of the fountains or sinks or anything in the middle school. It was just Richards and the high school, mostly sinks, the cooking sinks. But I will get that out to families tomorrow. Again, we just got that information. Rodney had to go through and figure out where they were. And then I wanted to call the state to get more information and find out what the number, has the number always been 5, or when this changed, and she gave me that. So city, town, and well water is 15. So it's just schools and childcares that are 5. So I just.
Go home and have 15 fire sport buildings, but at the school, man, you better not have 6.
Well, and that's one of the
Or even
things.
5.84.
Yeah.
5.1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the things I said to them today. I said, it really makes no sense to me. Because then she said, well, they're thinking about putting it at 1. And so I said, well, if you're going to put it at 1 in school, shouldn't it be the same at the person's home? Because a lot of times, we're finding it just in our sinks, right? So it's just cooking. When kids go home, they drink water out of the faucet. They may have lemonade. The parents use it for cooking. So they would be exposed to more lead at a home than they would be at a school, technically, right? And so she said, I didn't write the law. So I had to agree with her. She didn't. She just enforces it. So it wasn't anything on her. It just didn't make sense to me. But what we find is that we have a lot of copper pipes, and then the structures that hold the copper pipe is what the lead, it was soldered or something with lead, and so that's where we think it might be, but using a filter will help remedy that.
No problem, we'll just fix the gym floor and put in PEX piping everywhere. It should be fine.
Yes, well, that's one of the things that I did say. I said, what's hard is that you do this, and it seems like every time we turn around, there's a new House bill put in, and what they don't think about is that you put in this House bill, and it's affecting schools, and schools like ours now have to make these changes and fix these things, but you're not giving us the money to fix them. You're just saying, here's some changes that you need to do, now you deal with it, right? And we're already into our budget season, and we're like, okay, what are we supposed to do? She did tell me, and I will relay this to Rodney and Diane, there is currently something we can apply for, a grant we can apply for that will be 50%.
I'm on it right
And so, yeah, so she said it's 50% that we can potentially get back of the cost. So it would be, okay, let's look and see. Because I said to her, can it be a 2-step process, right? Can we do the filters, and then in the summer, maybe do the piping, and get the money back? And she said, yes, you can do that, you just need to have a plan. And so that's one thing that I'll talk to Rodney about, because at first we were like, well, if we just change the filters and it works, then it works, right? We don't need to do anything else. But if they're going to pay 50% of the cost, and it would cost us what we thought we were going to pay anyway, then maybe we'll go that route. But that'll be something that I will bring to the board and talk to the board a little bit more about as more information comes in. But I just wanted to make sure that parents were aware that this letter will be going out tomorrow. It's going to be very detailed, and I apologize that it's going to be a couple pages long, but I just want to make sure that they have all the information. As well as, at the end of it, there is going to be a website that they can go on and view information about it.
Mr. Spaulding.
I think the first thing I look at is construction date for that portion of Richards, as an example. And if it was before they change over from lead to copper, it may be underground.
Actually,
So-
not to interrupt you, was it in the new part of Richards or the old part?
It's in the sinks, the kitchen sinks.
Which is the old part, okay. Sorry.
It's the new part,
Kitchen's not in the new part.
right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Audience is disagreeing with you.
The kitchen? Where the cafeteria is?
Yes.
I don't believe so, my brother
The
just.
old part, if you walk through the kitchen, and that becomes the older part. This part here is all new, so the kitchen is in the new part.
I don't know.
Is the kitchen the old part or the new part? You're both, can we go?
We disagree.
But there's one in the new edition, there's one in the new edition, too.
Okay.
You're talking the cafeteria kitchen?
Yes.
That's the old part.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
I think they're saying like one of the sinks, or a water.
Yeah, I just want to know if
Yeah.
any sinks in the new part of that school have that.
Yeah,
Because if they do, none of those, no piping in that new school, the new part.
The new part.
Will have any lead in any of it.
our
Because they
water
stopped,
fountain does, one of our water fountains.
then your issue is not in the school, it's outside the school. Because, or where the water comes in, maybe it's picking it up from the water going through the old school, because they haven't used lead in 50 years in solder. So
Okay.
that new part, absolute 100% can guarantee you, there's zero lead, anything in that, as far as fixtures, pipes, or anything like that. So the contaminant has to be coming from something old in the old part of the school then.
Okay,
Ms. Bergner, you had something?
Yeah, one of the places they identified is a water fountain that has a filter on it. So that, it's even more confusing.
well, we had a plumber come out and do the research and tell us what the best route for us to go, and he is the one that said, put the water filters in.
Yeah, that'll be the cheapest fix for now, 100% absolutely, but you're gonna need a filter that's made just for
Yeah, because it
lead.
looks like at Richards,
It's a
there's,
special kind of filter.
there's one, a drinking water fountain and the calf. There's the kitchen faucet, three of the kitchen faucets, and then a classroom faucet. And that's at Richards.
Mr. Spaulding.
The test isn't going to tell you a lot because the lead's going to migrate to wherever anybody hooked onto. So over here was lead, they connected with copper, came over to here, connected with copper, went to this, went to this, eventually it's going to go to everything that comes off of that supply line. So the first thing that's got to happen is you got to find out the source. And that'll be wherever it comes off of the main line. It may even be out into the street, depending on its age. So that would mean another line from coming in. Putting a filter on there, you're going to pass the test once, twice, but in the end, you're probably not going to pass it. So the only real way to do this is to find out where the lead is, where it goes, and then we put the filters on to get us down the road until we can put it on a budget and get it fixed.
He just made a huge point. So here's the thing, you just said it a minute ago. Cities and towns and your personal well are allowed 15 parts per billion. If this town has 10 parts per billion, every faucet, you're going to get 10 parts per billion in your school, no matter what you do. You would have to filter it for the whole entire, so the issue might not even be in our school. The issue may very well be from the town. Because if they're allowed 15 parts per billion, and now you're allowed 5, you're getting your water from them. So it's not magically going to come into your school less than
Right.
whatever theirs
And I
is.
can ask that question too, because that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I would ask the water department if, on their last test, because I think they test like monthly. They're required to test whatever. Ask them what parts per billion it is, and then it would be potentially a lot easier to then just have a whole filtration system in school than it is going to be to try to find some pipe that has lead, because I'm kind of skeptical of it, because before they use the copper, they're using galvanized pipes. There's no lead in the galvanized, and typically the lead was used in heating stuff, not water. So, I mean, lead paint's typically an issue with paint, not.
And going back and staying on the town testing, we have a slow sand filtration plant that's in Unity that most of our water comes through. If you test it there, you're going to have nothing. They may pick it up in lead pipes that are between Unity and the town. So where are they testing? Where is the test? If the test is taken in Unity at the reservoir, meaning the reservoir, the tank after the filtration, what is the lead count there? And then find out the lead count at your supply, and the only way to solve it is to get rid of the lead.
Any other?
Well, so Rodney just made a comment to me earlier that there are some lead in the joints as far as when they solder. But that's the only connection he could find with the copper pipes, but.
And that really is external. If you picture the ID and the OD,
Right,
it is a film, and
but that's the only thing he can find as far as like right underneath the sinks or
but
leading into.
that type of copper connection is used in houses today.
Yeah.
Well, we need to stay on top of it. I think the important thing, though, is we have the supplies where we found that are shut off, bringing in water, we're gonna get it fixed, and we're about where we have been for the last few years. They just lowered the standard, or they raised the standard. And so because they raised the standard from 15 to 5, that's raising it, right? I mean, they lowered it, but they're
Right,
making it
right.
harder for us. So that's why, so just so any parents are concerned, we've stopped the use of those and we're gonna get it fixed. Yes?
I would just also point out, that this kind of goes to Mr. Kessler's comments, that this is another example of a state or federal, in this case state, mandate that comes down to us, which happens all the time, and it's, you will fix this, you will do this, and oh yeah, we're not going to give you any money for it, it's your problem. So if anyone out there that doesn't know how this all works, this happens all the time to,
Both sides.
yeah, and every school in the state that's public, it constantly happens. And it's not like, hey, you need to fix this and here's the money to do so. Okay, cool. It's, you fix it and figure it out.
In this case, there's allegedly a grant that would pay for half of it.
Yes.
But that doesn't solve it.
I know,
Yeah.
but it adds more, like you said, like, that's why I encourage them to send people so that they can understand, so that it's not just us lamenting over these costs.
Right.
Because they keep building up year after year. Yes, Mr. Spalding?
Well, the maraschino cherry on this conversation is on the warrant for the town for this year. This is a $28 million plant down here to take all of this matter out of our water. And it takes a 60% threshold for it to pass because it's a bond. And if we don't do it, we're going to get fined. The environmental strangle, somebody has got to figure out that there are limits. And they're just putting the communities in debt, big time. So I don't know which problem is the bigger and quicker to fix, and but keep in mind, they'll come down with a sledgehammer and sign the hell out of us.
you know, they'll find the town, shut the school down, and it's like, well, we're, like, this turnip's dry.
Maybe that's when the legislature and the EPA will come to, and there was more with polyvinyl chloride that was
That was not.
in the train crash there. There was enough of that. I went out to Poly Seal in Midland, Michigan, when I was younger, to get a machine online, and 1 quart of polyvinyl chloride emptied the entire factory out, period. And this was a factory huge, so. All right,
But
so
we'll get that lead down. Yeah, that's,
we don't take care of the big things, but the little things we're gonna fix.
right, exactly. All right, next we have, any other comments? Closing that out, we'll move to the Newport Times.
Yes, so I just wanted to give you an update on some of the things that I have for you, because I know it's been a hot topic, and so I just wanted to discuss it with you. On August 5th this school year, I received an email from Shannon Martin from Jen McMillan, and Jen was reaching out to her to see if she would be interested in submitting articles to the Newport Times. I told Shannon that we could continue on to this, I just needed to know what to do next. That was the first and only time that I heard from the publisher or the Newport Times. That's the only time they ever reached out. Then I looked into, I spoke with Ed, and Ed had said,
At our previous.
Ed, the previous BA, because I figured he was the one that put the budget together last year, so he would have an idea of where it would go. And he said, up until now, the business people have been providing the funds, and the school and town have been providing positive stories and other content for the newspaper. Both high school principal and tech director have been involved in the news aspects of the school. Next year, meaning the next, not this school year, but next year, the group is looking to have all 4 shares in the financial cost, which is about $24,000, which could be possibly shared $6,000 4 ways. If they find more resource sources, it may be less or nothing at all. This was not anything that was in the previous budget, and if we were to move forward, it would need to be allocated until next year's budget. So it's not in this year's budget, wasn't in last year's budget, and it would be allocated to next year's budget. Then I asked him, and he said, I was told there's no request for money in this year's budget. The request is for next year's budget. That's also from Ed. So because Ed had mentioned the Shannon and the Eric, I reached out to both of them, and Eric said that when they proposed becoming a newspaper again, they committed to submitting written articles and pictures for each edition, and that's the extent that he was aware of. And then Shannon had said, our newspaper advisor contributed articles as well. It was sparse, as there weren't many students interested. And then she gave me the name of the advisor, and she said, we did not pay anything towards it. That came from Shannon. And then Brendan was like, Ed is definitely aware of it, so that's when I talked to him. He said the high school was supposed to be involved along with one of the high school English teachers, who I think has left. You may want to check to Shannon to see what she recollects. And then he mentioned about Jennifer, which that's why I reached out to Eric. May also have some information, but I'm not sure on that part. So then I sent something to him and I said, I'm really sorry, Brendan. I'm really sorry. I'm still trying to work on the Newport Times. Did you agree to pay, because at one time it was $8,000, or just have the high school paper, newspaper club supply articles? So he said, we agreed that we'd work together. Do not remember a specific dollar amount that was discussed, probably because it would be a minimal amount. And that was from Brendan. So that's what I have from the research that I've done. So there's really been no one that has said that we have agreed to pay any money this year, except when Brendan said there may have been, but he doesn't remember it, and it could be because it was a minimal amount. And so that's all I have, an update for you for that.
Mr. Spalding, anything?
At the end of this conversation, I'm going to make a motion. I feel strongly that this school district, in its dealings with the town manager, deals only on contracts, written agreements. No more other agreements. $24,000 for that document a year, taken out of the citizens' pockets. I don't see the good that it does that we get from that. And so I'm not going to support, myself personally, that we be part of the Times. You have left out the town manager's retaliatory email where he said he canceled the next 5 that we had. We didn't use any in reality. So the 5 spaces that were empty, he has already canceled for this year. So if he wants to be that arbitrary, then we deal with him in contracts that are approved by this board, not by the, and get you out of the hot seat. That contract comes to you. You do your part to get it together. Then you bring it back, and the board here approves or disapproves. And when the conversation is over, I want to make that motion.
I feel, so first of all, I have no recollection of one, either seeing a contract or that it was ever a discussion that we would pay. That's just my own personal knowledge. Second, I feel differently than Mr. Spalding. I do see a lot of good that comes out of that publication. Time and time again, we talk about how amazing the Newport community is, and I think that document, that magazine that comes out, I look forward to it every time. And I was actually disappointed the first time that it came out. I knew nothing about it, and I was on the school board, and I would have loved to have our input at the time into it, of what our goals were, what we were looking at. I mean, I was very grateful that CTE in high school had it, as well as the Montessori. But I think it could do a lot of good to bring it even more together. And I do agree with Bert that I think it should be a written contract, but I think it would be a shame to have an entire community publication that doesn't include the public schools. I mean, what does that say about your community? So I would fight to try to get back on, whether it's next year or the year after. I know that's more money, but I think it's worthwhile. So often we hear about the bad, and that is a really great publication.
So the only thing, like, I love the Newport Times, I think it's great. I just don't understand, there's a few things. I believe the Sunshine Initiative is the one that started it, and, like, I don't understand why we don't have a bill. So the town manager doesn't publish this, unless I'm wrong, someone can correct me on this, but I don't understand why he would be asking us for that, and it wouldn't just be like, here's a bill, this is what you guys agreed to, or something from an actual publisher. I gave Donna a few, like, names to reach out to, just because I don't know, I don't know who publishes it or whatever. I just feel like somebody should know more about it. I don't understand why it doesn't, I don't know, does anyone in the crowd know anything about it? Like, I just don't, because if, hey, we agree to pay $6,000 and that'd be my motion, fine, we'll pay it, like, whatever, but no one can show us anything. That's the issue with it, you know?
I have made a right-to-know request for all of the contributors to it, and haven't gotten an answer yet, and the clock, 5-day clock is ticked out. So my motion doesn't preempt us from being in it later. It means that we got to agree on a contract. But for right now, we're out. And we're out because we didn't take ourselves out. The town manager took us out. But also, we got to weigh $6,000 of educational money
Yes, I understand.
against putting our presence in that magazine. And so maybe we'll approve it, maybe we won't, but it is not,
I just have a question. I know that it's the town, Herald of Valley, of the Valleys, and then one of them was us, and then I think that one of them was Roy. My question is, so we're paying for the paper and supplying the articles. So if anybody else is putting articles in there, does that mean they're paying for the paper as well? Right, so if it's not just about the town putting stuff in that's happening in the town, and the valleys putting in stuff that's happening in the valleys, and Roy putting in stuff that's happening with Roy, and then the school putting in stuff, but there's other people that are contributing articles to this paper. I've never seen it. We've never
I'll get you a
got-
copy.
We've never received any copies at the SAU or anything. Does that mean that anybody that puts something in the paper is paying part of that paper? I don't know who else would be advertising in there or putting stuff in there.
the reason for my request was to find out what's really happening. 4 contributors at $6,000 each, and then other paid advertisements came in. What's the total revenue? What's happening? To know what we're entering into with $6,000 of child education money. That's the way I look at it. It's got to be pretty good for us to want to take that money and put it there.
Well, whenever I was listening to the radio, I heard Steve Smith say that he was on the initial committee that they formed to put this together, and he said that he remembered them specifically saying it wasn't going to cost anything, that it was supposed to be paid for with the advertisements. Did anybody else hear that? So, I mean, I think it's worth looking into to find out, because it's weird that we'd be in the publishing business as a school with advertisers and everything else, putting money in there, like,
We can't
I
just
mean,
send
I'm
it-
the kind of guy as a parent that if I pick up the Newport Times, and granted, I haven't seen one in, I don't know, about a year, maybe they've released one since, but I feel like the last one I saw was right before the CTE vote last year, around that time frame. But if there's an advertisement for some place that I don't approve of, I would be right up at this podium being like, y'all are in cahoots with X business? Not that there is, I'm just saying that, like, that opens you up for more scrutiny, right? If you're,
You can't just take $6,000 of public money and send it out of nowhere to the town. I don't even know. Like, so someone has to answer for that, and someone comes in here and like, whoa, would you do this? I don't know, I guess we were supposed to do this. Like, hell no. Like, show me something, and then, okay, here's a contract. All right, I guess then we're supposed to have done this.
And that's a question that no one's been able to answer for me.
Right.
Where would I send the check? Right, who does it get made out to? And I did ask, I said, is this something that the town bills us for at the end of the year? Like, you know, that you bill, like, that's what normally happens, we get billed? And I was told, nothing. Yeah, that wasn't, that I didn't get an answer for that. So I still don't know who we would even make the check out to, if that was. I'll tell you, I did have a conversation with Paul Brown, and he's extremely helpful. He said to me, because I was looking, what I did is I tried to look through last year's budget to see what line item it was, and I know I had Diane
Yeah.
going crazy looking for it, I had Michelle going crazy looking for a contract and looking for how we paid it, and Paul had come by the office for a meeting, and we had talked about it, and he had said, oh, you didn't have to pay for it last year, it was all paid for by Roy. And so I said, oh, okay, well, that's the big help, so now I can stop everybody for trying to pull their hair out, trying to find out where where this money would be located, so.
I move that we do not contribute to the Town Times, that we do enter contract with them, meaning the town, and we'll, of course, at that time, put conditions in. But for right now, we're out until we get a documentation as to where our money's going and what we get for it. dead.
I feel like there's two things. We have a lot of questions that may have nothing or little to do with the school being able to supply stories for the Newport Times. For example, if we don't know who to make the check out to, then I don't think we know who we're making a contract with potentially. That it may not be the town, it may be somebody else. I agree that there should be a contract and we need to find more information, contact Steve Smith or whomever it may be. But I would like to keep it at least on our plates right now, because I think it's, whether we choose to pay the $6,000 or if you find out any information from the advertisers from the 91A request, I think it's worth putting in the time to see if at least we can get our kids and our staff in the magazine at some point. Maybe it's not this year.
Jenna, there's one thing I'd like to add to that. When we didn't know we had to pay the $6,000, the town manager took us off because we did not pay it. So that kind of totalitarian statement is, give us the money without, we switched administration and board without any documentation? No, that's a $6,000 robbery that he's not going to get away with. So my motion doesn't preempt us from doing an agreement. But what it says is we will have an agreement in order to enter what we want. If we're giving away $6,000, we gotta know where it's going and what it's doing for us.
I would support your motion, just tweaked, but if you want to, please go ahead and take the.
I'm not stepping into any of that. And I agree with Mr. Spaulding, before we spend any money that could go to students, we need to look carefully. I've been around long enough to remember the Argus, and the Argus used to have articles all the time. I think if we don't do this, if we can find ways to start doing more positive articles in the Eagle, our kids are doing incredible things, and our schools are doing incredible things, and I think we need to get back to that. We also used to have a page for free in the Eagle Times that the high school would contribute to. So I think regardless of this, I do think that we need to start looking at ways to promote our schools and the positive, so that we can all, brag about our students and the great things that they are doing. So maybe doing that too, talking about the English teachers at the high school, or, Richards is doing great things too. So maybe contributing that way as well.
Has the conversation changed anything?
No.
Tim has jumped in here with possible support.
I think that's relative, because if we absence the Newport Times, she's asking the school board to encourage and figure out a way to make sure we do get positive stories out.
I would say that if for some reason it doesn't work out with the Newport Times, that with CTE and one of their classes, I don't know which class it'd be, but like there used to be a school newspaper. So I would encourage, okay, let's start that again, and then we could try to find private funding to at least to publish it, to mail it to people or something, if it didn't work out. My concern is the same as Bert's. I'm not going to sign off on giving the town or anybody $6,000 unless you can show me where we agreed to it. And no one seems to know anything. Even Menahan didn't know anything, and he's been here longer than the paper was. So that's my concern. But I do agree 100% that we should be, everything in dealing with the town, we should have contracts. So this doesn't happen. If we had a contract, this is stupid. We keep talking about this, but it's all because this was a handshake or whatever it was. So, like our SRO, we have a contract. Okay, so it's easy. Everyone knows what to expect. We have nothing on this, and it hasn't been for lack of trying, because I've tried by giving her some information. It's been, but no, even Paul, which Paul knows pretty much everything that happens in town, he's not even 100% sure on it. So until we can figure that out, I'm not like, I will not sign off to be like, yeah, let's give somebody $6,000. Like, hell no, like,
Mr. Spalding.
And how did Menahan do it? Out of what account? With what authority?
right, I don't
It
think
never
he
came to the board. He didn't, it never came to the board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
think that's his
So
point,
where-
yeah.
Where did he get that? So, that all being said, we don't have an agreement, so we don't have an obligation. Until we know what we're buying, I'd be more than glad to sell you a car that I got out, it hasn't run for a while. You give me $6,000 for it, and I'll deliver it with a key that doesn't work. You know, I mean, it's particularly, the most offensive thing was the way he did it. To say, we got to pay this, and you respond to it, not that we're not going to pay it, you respond to it is, well, what is it? And he cancels. So, do we want to, as a school board, deal with something that tenuous with that town manager?
Well, I think that if it was started by the Sunshine Initiative, because that's what the scuttlebutt is that I've heard, then it should be the Sunshine Initiative coordinating with anybody that they want money from, not the town taking that responsibility, because then it's a town paper, and is the town in the publishing business now? I don't think that they are. Maybe I'm
So,
missing something.
when did Jay hand it over to Hunter? That's a $64,000 question. Does Jay know what's going on? He launched this boat?
By Jay, you mean Mr. Lucas?
Yes.
Okay, Lucas.
which is the one that started Sunshine Initiative, correct?
Yes.
So that's where the mystery's at. So if anyone wants money from us, it should be them.
Well, maybe he handled it off, so would it be, maybe, planted this, well, he gave out all those seeds, right? So maybe he planted a seed here and then handed it off to the town. That's fine. And if in fact we think it's good and we want to enter on it, we have a contract that says that we have so much space and per publication, then the schools go about it to fill it with stuff that they'd like, gives the kids a chance to maybe make news themselves. But without it being managed and without us having a say, giving them the money is highway robbery.
All right. So this is from the Newport Times. Someone just sent it to me. It's published bi-monthly by Greater Good Media, Inc. Jennifer McMillan is the publisher, so that's definitely built there. And then just, there's a list of contributors. Ann Stout is one, Arthur Walsh. Special thanks to the wonderful Newport community for all its support and especially all the contributors to this issue. And then you can email publisher at greatergoodmedia.net. It's printed in Williamstown, Vermont. The Newport Times is an independently owned publication, so it is not town-owned then. I would assume that means. No part of the paper may be reproduced without us. Okay, so.
So if it's an independent publication and the town doesn't own it, I'm fine entering into a contract, but it doesn't sound like it should be with the town.
Yeah, it seems to me like that's,
I did reach out to Jennifer McMillan today, and she wasn't there, so I left my cell phone number for her to give me a call, because she seemed to be the initial person that reached out to Shannon and said, do you guys want to put, we're looking for articles for you to put in the paper, so I did do that. But I hope the board understands that, I know that I've been accused by the town manager of just trying to push this under the rug and, keep trying to lead him on by saying, I'm looking into it, but as you can see, I just keep hitting roadblocks and everywhere I go, and whether it's $6,000 or a penny, I don't feel comfortable spending anyone's money that is not my own. And so I don't want to spend any money until I find out exactly where it's going and what it's doing, because if I'm ever questioned on it, I want to be able to answer. And that's the same reason why with the 10,000 XXX, I didn't bring that forward, because again, it may be a small chump change in the big thing of our budget, but I'm still the one that's held accountable for every single penny that is spent, and I will not and refuse to spend town people's money without knowing exactly how much it is or exactly where it's going.
I think all your answers you'll probably get from Jennifer, right?
That's
Now
what
that
I'm
we have
hoping.
that,
I
I
called her
think,
earlier today, probably around, I think when you were with me when I called her, probably like
It
around,
was right after we came up from,
yeah.
you guys.
so I'm glad
Because I
you
started
switched.
doing some research on the Newport Times to see if I sent anything in September or earlier, and there wasn't anything. Brendan and I did a search on my emails until like January, I think it was. Was it January, the first one we found?
November 11th.
Oh, November, which doesn't remind you.
So clearly, if a check for $6,000 can be made, it would be made to that Good News or whatever, so.
And I'll keep you posted as soon as I hear from her. I also reached out to Jay Lewis. Lucas, sorry. And I sent him, I also sent him a text message because his voicemail was full. I have not heard back from him either.
Steve,
Yes.
put my motion back on the floor, see where it goes, because all my motion's doing is saying that we're going to have paperwork in our hand and make a decision of what we do, as opposed to cut a check to somebody.
In reference to Newport Times or all?
Newport Times, and with the SRO, we wound up with an agreement. The bus barn didn't have an agreement, and here we are.
We also don't have an
Being a-
economic developer, so I can get on that and make sure we have one for that, so.
So my motion, I guess, takes a little bit of authority away from the interim superintendent here, and puts it in our hands, but she can't spend what we don't authorize. So, that being said, I believe the motion is in fact required now, because if in fact Hunter can say in an email, you are $6,000, what will he send us next? So I move my motion again.
Can Maura
Motion
read it
is
back?
Any contracts entered with the town of Newport, or any contract?
I would say any contracts. If somebody comes in here with a real good idea on education, and it's proven somewhere that it works, and et cetera, and we can get a presentation and et cetera, we go with it. But to just say that it exists beyond our purview and our ability to pay or not pay, and be disciplined by a statement of, well, we've taken you away from the next 5, without our consent. You want our $6,000 and we don't have any say? Give me a break.
He never sees me, I'm gonna have to just start hitting him.
Well, I gotta look to my left, I apologize
No,
for
that's
all of
fine.
y'all.
I just want to let you know, if you do all contracts, that's huge, because you need to remember Frontline, Tyler, any type of programming I get for our curriculum, all of that stuff is all going to have to come through the board, and that's going to be quite a lot. That's
Contracted service providers.
Contracts
Are
with
those-
service
are those-
providers, all of that.
Are those things included in your budget presentation to us
Yeah.
as
Yes.
being part of it? Then that's within your authority to do so. But to add to that, without us saying anything or hearing anything, I think it's our purview to
Right.
give you the authority for it.
But I come to you like with the SRO, that's in our budget, but I still come to you with that.
Yes.
So that's in my budget. So you've given me the authority to spend that money, but I still bring that to you.
All right.
But I just want you to see
If you
that
want to
the
amend the
impact.
motion to, with the town of Newport, then I'm okay with that.
So if we could amend the motion that we will enter into no agreements with the town of Newport that aren't in writing, so that everyone knows exactly what is expected of both parties, like I'm 100% behind that. No more handshakes and, okay, this is what we're gonna do, like, they shouldn't be done that way anymore, unfortunately. They should be, here's an agreement, if money's involved, obviously.
Okay. Just as a reminder, just in case anybody in this room forgot, we have got an eviction notice to get out of the garage, and without any money in the current budget to get us out, without any money in the new budget to get us out, and we've been thrown out with no notice. We've had a landlord who shut the toilets down on us, which is unlawful to do, and it is just ludicrous to deal with that wall. So my motion amended to say contracts or agreements with the town of Newport.
I would second that motion.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. We'll have written contracts.
Yeah, I'll work on the one for the economic developer, so I can bring that forward.
Budget adjustments.
So you would, every month you usually get something on your budget adjustments, you should have that. It's not this big paper. This big paper here was because Bert had requested a larger font for the capital reserve, so that's what this is. So you should all have that as well.
We're talking journal entry 236.
Yep.
Yes.
I move to approve journal entry 236, the budget adjustments.
Journal entry as of 236.
I move journal entry 236
Second.
for, just to be specific, $79,762.
Any discussion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay. Brings us to new hires? New hires?
I was going to play a joke on you, because I was hoping that you would, well, not that I didn't want Jenna, and I was going to make up a name, so you would have to read it. I thought that'd be a little too mean.
You'd be surprised. Hey, I've encountered a lot of weird names being in the military.
Oh, that's true, that is true.
Don't let my slow southern drawl throw you off. Any resignations?
No.
Committee report outs? So the wellness committee met.
Yesterday.
Diane has really put the wheels in motion, and we have, I don't, would you like to talk about it, Diane?
No, I'll let you talk about it.
But it's good, because we have the community health director from New London. She participated with us yesterday, and generated a great conversation. I don't want to say too much here, because I don't want people to get concerned, but, you know, my stance is I don't like being told what to do, and I don't like to tell people what to do. And so, as we're having these discussions, you know, because it's hard to tell a parent, you can't send your kids to school with food that they can provide to them, right? So you have to look for creative ways, and I think that we found some ways that help us to make sure that everything is in compliance, and I believe our cafeterias, for the most part, they meet the compliance because they're state contractors. But the big thing with having the community health director there is that there's a lot of opportunities for our students to get volunteer hours, and so I think we're going to try to link them up with FFA, because they do gardening and fruits and vegetables. So there's hours out there for students that don't want to do the same old coat closet, go out and, you know, like we have like our normal system of, very rarely anyway, I think that we have new, but there's an opportunity for new ways to volunteer. And it was great that we got her involved, so I appreciate that, Diane, because not just on that committee, but also across the district, I think that can have benefits being linked in with her and her organization. So it's good news for the town, I think. And then we have we have a RAC, I want to say in April,
Yep.
which I won't be able to attend. I'll be out for committees, so any of my alternates, April 11th through the 30th, I'll be out of town. And I think,
Like, of course.
And I think everybody assumes that Mr. Beard is my alternate for everything, even though I don't think that's correct. I just volunteer you. Yeah, I volunteer you for everything.
He's coming to the next wellness committee.
Because he knows nobody else, just for the record.
Look at this, he's been chairman for 15 minutes and he already wants time off.
All right. Policies, we have no new policies, and now we'll go to administration.
Yeah. So for, there's a couple.
Anybody down there?
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
Now,
Now me? All right. So, as always, I want to thank our amazing dedicated staff. They continue to go above and beyond time and time again, and it's amazing. I will tell you, we have so many students that are not in a very good place, and our staff comes to work every day knowing that they are going to have to deal with situations that they didn't go to school for. And so I really appreciate that, and, you know, we're hoping to get things in place to change some of that, whether, you know, a lot of different things that we'll be looking at and talking with the staff to see what they feel, what they would like to see some of the changes to occur. I also wanted to let you know that yesterday at the high school, they had a career day where the middle school and the high school students participated. I walked around and went into some of the sessions. It was very amazing to see the amount of businesses that took the time to come here to speak with our students about the careers that our students could go into. It wasn't like a job fair. It was more, you know, what do you do in your job, and tell us, you know, how to get into that and stuff like that. You know, they did a great job putting this together. I believe this is the second year they've done it. Some of the kids had bingo cards, so it was nice to see them asking, which had questions on them, and if they answered questions, they got tic-tac-toe, or not tic-tac-toe.
Bingo.
Bingo.
Yeah, they got bingo, they got a water bottle, and if they filled the whole card up, they were entered into a drawing. And it was really great to see that the kids were actually participating and reading the questions off the card and having those interactions with our community members and people outside of our community. There was businesses where kids could go look into job careers and things that they may have never thought of, even that possible to do. So that was great to see. I also wanted to let you know that this year, our I believe it's next Saturday, that our district is going to be having a table at the Croydon Open House. This is a way for us to promote our school to families in Croydon. The hope is to get them to enroll some students into our district. So we'll be participating in that, and then after that, we will be participating in the one in Goshen. Thank you.
any board members, we'll start down at the end and just work our way this way, if that's okay with everybody?
I just have to go first.
That's why I said if it's okay.
Don't sit at the end.
Yeah, where to begin? So, many people, well, okay, let me see. So, we're obviously a school board, and we're all individual members, and the things that we do in this community are not as members of the school board. Me and Steve have a show we do, has nothing to do with the school board, because this is still America, and we're citizens, and we can say what we want, at least as of today. Some people don't like, perhaps, on the select board that I call out the BS that's happening over there, or the lies. People don't like when you prove things to them that are factual when they try to tell you it's not. So I applaud Mr. Kessler coming here and speaking to us. That's great. I'll take it all day long. But I'll also give it when I see things aren't fair and right. I don't like being lied to. It is insulting to my intelligence. It's insulting to my community, and I will not stand for it anymore in this town. I will hold the Board of Selectmen responsible, just like I'll hold this board and this school district responsible equally. So there's a lot of things going on in town. People, residents need to become involved. Too many people are just in their own little zone and don't pay attention, and without checks and balances is kind of how we get in situations like this. We need to make the relationship between this board and their board stronger than it's ever been, because it's never been good. It's always been rocky, and it shouldn't be that way. We're one community, and that's what needs to happen. And it might look like I'm causing all these issues, which if I want these groups to get together, how are you gonna do that if I'm causing issues? Well, there's a couple issues in the town that needs to change, and until that happens, it's gonna be hard to go forward in a positive way when one person misremembers apparently a lot of things. So that's my spiel about that, but Coffee House concert last Friday night was amazing. We have so much talent. I didn't realize that Bella Osgood sang. I know she played her instrument, and I know she'd done the NCTV stuff and all that, but the last song I did was amazing, and then her and Steven did a 10-minute song together. He wrote the whole thing. He plays the piano. He's incredible. Like, it's insane how talented some of these kids are that we have in the school. Another thing that I think needs to become a very big topic in this community, I've talked to the police chief, I'm hoping to work something out with him, but is drugs. We've had 3 fatal overdoses in the last 2 weeks, roughly. And it's really time that we as a community take and get involved. This is way too big of an issue for just the Newport Police Department. This is a community issue that's not getting better, and it's clearly also affecting our schools. And I don't want to get the phone call someday from Donna that one of our students has fatally overdosed. And I don't think any of our teachers or any of our community members want that. We really have to start getting involved with this, and we just can't stand for this anymore. How many people have to die before we finally, and 3 of these people were my age, 2 of them went to school with, like, when's enough? When is enough? When is it enough? And we really need to start looking at this as a community and not just the police department or whatever. So yeah, that's my 2 cents today.
Thank you. Mr. Spaulding?
Well, I kind of like the first part of what Tim said. I've been doing this for 44 years, and if he continues to go on, he can replace me and I can retire. What we do outside of the board is outside of the board. It is kind of woke to say that you can control me outside of the board or him as a citizen. It is just someone trying to silence the other side of the story. And democracy has proven it. Its wealth and its all of it. If you look at from the colonies to now, Britain, Spain, France, everybody else had more power and more money than us, and in 200 years we put them all to shame. We've got to be doing something right. And we don't have kings, we don't have queens, we don't have emperors. We have elected officials. And so, that being said, I go along with Tim. What I do outside of the school board is different. My responsibility here, I clearly understand, but I also understand as a citizen of this country that I have a responsibility to make sure that it runs well, as good as I can help to make it. Some would argue that, hell, Bert, you've caused more harm than you've ever done good. That's okay, they're entitled to have an opinion. That all being said, thank you.
Jenna?
I just have 2 things. None of us do our job up here to get a thank you or a pat on the back. That being said, I think the same goes for the select board as well. And I know things aren't great right now. And I agree with Tim that I would like to see that relationship be stronger. So I'll speak for myself, and I really don't think that the frustration that this board has is with all of the select board members. And so I would like to thank them for their service. I would like to thank Jeff for coming here to speak with us tonight. We're not always going to agree, but one of the first things I started to do when I went on this board is try to go to their meetings. It wasn't something I could sustain at the time. But I think it's good. I think we need to have more meetings and talk. We've all said that we could have handled the bus barn thing differently. We're going to do the best we can to resolve it. But I just want to move forward. The second thing is I'd like to thank the voters that came out, all 314 people that voted on March 14th, which is also Pi Day. Thank the people that braved the weather. I thank the people that submitted an absentee ballot. I thank the people that were there working. Thank you for supporting our budget. Thank you for supporting our paraprofessionals. That contract was part of our proposed budget and now our budget for next year. And it felt really good to get 2 hugs from people at the end of the night, tears in their eyes to say thank you. And that's what makes this job, this service worth it. And you go through all of the tough stuff so that you can get that moment. So I thank everybody for voting. I thank you for the people that voted no too, because it makes your voice heard and it's important. I hope that you continue to, or maybe not continue, start to come here so that you can tell us what we can do better and what you need, because we can only do with what we're handed. You know, those are the cards we're dealt. So thank you very much for voting, and thank you for the privilege of serving for 1 more year.
I would like to start off by reminding everyone we do have an open position. The application submission date closing is April 10th. And then once you turn in your application, ask that you show up on the 13th. Give anyone who has requested to be considered an opportunity to address the board. And then after they speak, then we'll take motions to appoint somebody. So.
And the board chair will email those people and tell them to come.
Board
Even if he's
chair-
on vacation.
If you need to delegate that to your vice chair because you're out of town, she will do that.
It is posted on our website.
It's
so
posted on
people
the
can-
website.
And there's 4 questions for them to answer, as well as a cover letter. Or they can pick it up, we will print it and for them to pick it up as well, whichever's easier.
So it's on the website. You can also stop in by the SAU, but the deadline to submit is Monday, April 10th.
And they submit it to me, and then I will send it to all of you.
Submit it to the superintendent. She will provide to all of us. I just want to clarify, too, from my response to Mr. Kessler, I wasn't being flippant, and I wasn't trying to be crass, and I'm not trying to cancel anything with the school, but if you sit down and you talk with Dr. Scott, and I think he might even have mentioned it, I don't know if it was in here, or, you know, but there's not many more years left where we can ask taxpayers for more tax dollars. Like, we're getting to like a point to where, you know, the amount that we're asking versus the income and the amount that's available in the town, it's going to end. And so say for the town folks, I'd like for parents first, because it's our students that we're teaching and educating. But really, the town to come in here and provide us with feedback. When we go through that budget and you see how much we spend on something and there's an issue with it, like if it's a legal requirement, we can't change the legal requirement, but what we can do is, as a town, come together and say, we don't like this, and then let our representatives know, and then come together as a town and make a decision. So I'm not trying to say, like, send them. I really would like it. I think all of us would like it. Even, we'd like to hear great things, obviously, but the more input we have, the more accurate of the decisions that you can influence, so that we're doing what you want. Because most nights, it's the teachers union that's in here to speak, and there's nothing wrong with that. We appreciate it. But it would also be nice to have parents, even if it's just sitting here to watch and learn. And granted, there might be some watching on the television, but I really do encourage the town to come out. And just like we're in our other capacity as citizens checking what we are trying to provide checks and balances, we need checks and balances because mistakes happen. It's not personal. We may say something today and Maura doesn't put it in the minutes somehow, even though she's very good at it. I'm just saying hypothetical.
And, you know, we might forget about it, but if you watched and you heard and you can call us on it, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what makes this country great, is because anybody that comes in here has an opportunity to sign up, and then if it's a discussion item, I've called on you all tonight, I fully encourage participation, and, you know, be careful what you wish for, but at the end of the day, we can't do what we do without input, otherwise it starts becoming a closed system. And that's obviously why the teachers union comes here, to make sure that it doesn't become a closed system where we're making decisions without taking into account your observations from your side. So I appreciate that. I think I've spoken enough along. I do appreciate everybody voting. Jenna, I appreciate your service as the chairperson of the board, chairwoman, I don't know if they're actually chairman.
I'll take it all. It's fine.
But you,
Thank you.
you represented us very well.
That one with me.
And I hope that I can live up to the standard that you have set. On that note, we do have non-public, so
You have to read it.
non-public, which part?
Let's see. Just you make the motion?
91-A, colon 3, Roman 2, small a, and small b.
So the motion is to enter into non-public meeting under 91A, colon 3, Roman numeral 2, small a and small d. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Tim Beard, yes.
Brett Spalding Senior, yes.
Jenna Darling, yes.
Stephen Morris, yes. All right, so this will end the public portion, and we will now move into
Yep.
non-public.
All right. Thank you very much.
Motion.
Thank you for attending. Oh,
The phone is ringing.
That phone's ringing. The wall phone. Mr. O?
I'll answer it. How'd you gonna get that?
Village Pizza.
Bat phone, the bat phone.
do you take these, or these go back?
Why, what happened? Are you serious? Really?